Hey, I'm whistling. Would you like to whistle too? Whistle FM is looking for a few good volunteers. Come and join our team and learn a new skill. We're looking for producers, show hosts, and even people to help out around the station. Learn something new and meet new people. Email us at admin@whistleradio.com or drop by the station behind Stouffville Fine Furniture. We hope to see you soon.
Brittle bone disease, a birth defect, caused Lee's fragile bones to break even at the slightest touch. Then her family heard about Shriners Hospitals for Children, which provide pediatric specialty care for orthopedic conditions, burns, spinal cord injuries, and more. The world-class medical care that Lee receives at Shriners will enable her to live a fuller and more active life. Call 1-800-361-7256 for more information. Shriners Hospitals, helping kids defy the odds.
And we're back on Fresh Waves. We've got Diane Ward and good old Ivan Harris here in the studio with us today. Now, both of you are extreme volunteers. It's kind of like extreme skiing, but on a different level. I always watch the extreme sports, and after you watch them for a while, don't you think that you could do it yourself? It doesn't look that hard, does it? And it doesn't look that hard when you guys do all this volunteering, but I do volunteer a lot, and I know the hours that it takes. Tell us a little bit about...
Work.
Nope. It's not sure
not
it
hard
is.
Work. Why?
Well, you got the wheelchair, the accessible trailer washroom thing going. That was a lot of work.
It was a huge amount of work, but you know the biggest heartbreak was the number of people turning, even York Region, and the failure. They finally supported us after one or two other municipalities did. Markham did not. Vaughan wouldn't even hear us. Those were the things that hurted more because I thought all they have to do is give us 10 minutes in a council meeting to listen to what we have to say, and they weren't. And many times we'd go and appear, but they'd vote not to give anything to the trailer. So it's more
but
that.
But they all want it now, don't they?
Oh, well, let's hope they do. But it's, you know, the rewards are so huge. The people you meet, the wonderful connections you can make. Those rewards are so huge that I don't consider it work. I feel that I'm privileged to be able to, to have something to do, being part of somebody else's life in some way. Mm-hmm.
And what about you, Ivan? 50 plus years at the Lions Club. That seems like an awful lot of work right there, just even thinking about it.
The Lions Club was a big thing for me. I started a little bit green. I knew what I could do to help out, and the Lions Club, what they do, they'll get you into a particular department, looking after the services, looking after the youth. I made some decisions which irkled a lot of people. I decided when I took on the youth thing that anybody in Stouffville which wanted to go to Ottawa and they couldn't afford it, I thought the Lions will support them. Oh, I got myself in a lot of trouble, but still, I followed through with it, and there was quite a few families which I received a note saying, check with this family, and they just couldn't afford because they had to be billeted and stayed overnight, and ended up, and I'm going back to the 70s and 80s where to stay in Ottawa, maybe $90 or $100 for the night. Some families just couldn't afford that.
And the one family I know of that got helped by the Lions, they had triplets.
Oh
and they couldn't afford to send all three kids.
No.
And who do you choose?
Yeah. But just for them to go and see Parliament, I thought that was important.
It is important.
It is.
Yeah.
And so then I got involved with the public speaking, and of course that got humongous and big. And
do they still do that?
Do you know what? The schools stopped doing it.
What a shame.
That just bothered me because I had no base anymore. The Masons, they tried from a different point, using their own families to create and get the youngsters and their own families into the public speaking, and then it was up, but it was sort of an in-house type thing, and we tried to merge with them, but the fact that public speaking was an elective type thing.
Right.
It wasn't a compulsory item in the schools anymore, and especially in the high school, they just lost interest. And so it was really, really hard to pull that off. But anyway, my life all changed in 98. 8 when I moved to Eastern Gate, and they said, listen, we're looking for somebody that can help do the dinners, help get people involved. And I thought, okay, this could work for me. And at that time, I was doing the blood clinics for the Lions at the, it was up on the Legion was on the 9th line, and we were getting 125 donors all the time, and it was working out really well. And I thought, okay, I've got enough ability to do that and to get entertainment for the dinners and talk people into saying grace. I got somebody different all the time. I had other people that played the piano, things of that nature, and I tried to get somebody new. I went the route of having an MC, and people are so intimidated about getting up on a stage, but I pursued it, and I got about, maybe 8 or 10 years before they all said, Ivan, you do that, and we'll help you other ways. So I keep them involved, and
Are you
it's
the
been
MC
good.
now?
I am. I do MCs all the time, and it's fine with me. It just runs off my back. It doesn't matter, and I make mistakes and things of that nature. But
it's just cute now. Yeah.
We sing "O Canada" at all the meals, and I have a different pianist each time, and we try to sing it in the correct way, all of us, rather than all thy sons. And
That's really hard to change, though, let me tell you.
Oh boy,
I've been singing that national anthem for a lot of years.
Oh, yes, you're so old.
Yes, I am, though. I have muscle memory. I mean, even when you're not paying attention and you think you know the words and you're singing all thy sons command and nobody's singing the same words, you think, what's going on? Oh, right.
That's all of us. So it's been good for me, and I enjoy it. And the idea to help people volunteer and keep the whole process going as a community, it's worked out very well.
You do a lot over at Eastern Gate.
Oh, no.
He runs it.
No.
He does. He does.
No, but that's the whole idea of volunteering.
Exactly.
So mentally you can say, hey, I'm running this thing. This is great, and this is the way I want to help you out with, and we help everybody out.
So it isn't hard work, is it?
Nope, not at all. Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm never late.
And you volunteer here at Whistle FM too, so thank you very much for that.
I was going to mention how many people know that the people here are volunteers.
Nobody gets paid.
And exactly, and how important that is.
Okay.
It's just
Okay, so that's my life there. All right.
That's all you do.
That's
I
all
know.
I do.
I talked to Gail about it, and that's what she says too. Now, that's one thing I will say. When we get going on some of these big projects, and I say we because I've been involved in some pretty big fundraising projects myself, or just charitable things, we spend a lot of time. It takes a toll on our families and those around us because we're not there. I mean, there's food, guys. I'm out the door. What? But, no, I'm out the door. And away you go.
my kids have always said they've been voluntold.
Yes, mine too.
When we built the gardens at Parkview, my kids were there helping, and they were voluntold.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's sometimes where I sit in a meeting, even the accessibility meeting that I attended last week, where I physically now sit on my hands. I physically sit on my hands because if I don't, they seem to creep up into the air with some idea or something, and before you know it, I've done it again. It's like, stop it. Put those away. It almost is infectious, don't you think?
Absolutely.
It is, and it really, for people who don't volunteer, they just don't know it's so satisfying that you go home and you say, hey, I've done this and I've done it well. And I really feel good. And I think it gives us life, and I don't know, all the bad things in life, all my toxic problems either are flushed away. I don't know, but it's just so satisfying.
Sometimes, too, we have to look for the little things. I have a group that I think we've been meeting for 3 years now called Loops. And our youngest just turned 7
You have
yesterday.
to tell us what Loops is, though, because...
I'm going to, yes. And we meet over at Parkview. It was at the home, but we've moved to the village now. We moved because they were doing something at the home and then decided to stay in the village, in the lounge, because we've got some of the residents in the apartments and condos that are coming and joining us. We knit, we crochet, or we just sit and talk. And yesterday we had a birthday party for the one that turned 7. And I had, for instance, one little girl who is 10. She was 10 just before Christmas.
So this isn't just for seniors?
Not at all. No,
Okay.
no, it's all ages, and that's the purpose, is to bring all ages together.
Nice.
And this little girl had turned 10, and she had learned to crochet. Some of them had taught her how to crochet, and she's gotten very inventive. She and her 11 or 12-year-old brother come every week. They never miss. And they're so inventive. They're always trying to, she's making donuts now and icing the donuts. And then in February, she even put red hearts on the little donuts she was crocheting. Just by,
She's crocheting donuts.
crocheting them and figuring out how to do it. Her brother made a doll with clothes on him, and one leg ended up being a little bit short because he ran out of that color yarn, but that was okay. And two new little girls appeared. One was 8, and she wanted to learn how to crochet. And she had done a square, but she was frustrated with it. She said, I want to make something. And her mum said, this little girl didn't want to learn how to walk. She only wanted to learn how to run. So I said to her, what is it you want to make? And she said, I think a duck. So I said to little Diana, the 10-year-old, you've been making these donuts, and so you know how to make circles. Let's start making the circle, and let's figure out how to make a duck, because I think your donut looks like a duck head. If we squish one side of it a little bit, it could be the bill. So the two of them sat on the floor, talking to each other and working it out, and they made the most beautiful duck. And there are about 22 of us that get together every week. And so I have to hold it up. I'm very proud of all these people that do things, and even the adults hold up what they've made too. And we all applauded because these two little girls had worked out the cutest little duck. And now they're feeling better about themselves. Tiana definitely, she said, I don't know how to make a duck. And I said, well, neither do any of us, but I bet you could figure it out. She's proud that she did figure it out. The other little girl now is teaching her brother, Tiana's brother, how to make something else. And I thought, this is so much reward that I feel guilty. I love going. We're all nationalities. In fact, I did a great big world map. And I asked everybody to write their name and their age and their country of origin. And then I took embroidery, different colors of embroidery floss, and glued it to the country of origin and then to just north of Toronto. And this is the most beautiful map because it's just covered. Australia and South Africa and Germany and Scotland and Hong Kong and Sri Lanka. Mm-hmm. It's just beautiful to see all these threads all brought to one point.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah, that's good.
So it is. It's very exciting. And that's typical of just, you don't have to know how to knit or crochet. You don't even have to want to learn. You can just come and sit and visit with us.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Really is. There's also a hidden group of volunteers. And Stouffville's known for its churches and all the people in the churches. I mean, I'm part of the property committee at United Church, and the different things that they do just to keep the building safe, just to keep it secure, and as well as nice. The last couple of projects I've done there was a handrail on a staircase, some steel panels that are on the outside of the door, where people were kicking it, sort of thing, and I just had a loss of thought, which is my age and everything.
I would add, though, that group, because I'm clerk up at Lemonville, the group of workers in all of our churches that give to our immediate community and the whole world, the thousands and thousands of dollars, the truckloads of clothing and food we take downtown or whatever to street health, it is very quiet and very impressive.
Yep, and most people don't even know what goes on.
That's right.
Yep.
No, they don't.
No.
And it's nice for you guys to come in and remind us every now and again.
Yeah.
Because it is really wonderful. And I know that the Lions does the toy drive, and so does the Salvation Army. And the Salvation Army actually takes it one step further, where they have workers that are assigned to a family, and they make sure that that family has gifts for Christmas. And I know families personally who have benefited from that over the years. One family where the grandparents are raising their granddaughter. And, they're getting on in years, and they're on a fixed income. They don't have much cash to spend, if any. And to see those presents come in from the Salvation Army and make that Christmas tree just look so wonderful every year. It just warms my heart every time I go in there.
We had, with the toy drive, I could add, with the Lions toy drive, it's held over at the town offices in the great big room behind the council chambers. It filled with toys, as I mentioned, and it had to be sorted. But then we were all given a list, and I was given the Smith family or the Jones family, for instance, and their 3 or 4 children, their ages, and their interests. And then I would walk around and shop for each individual child, and then be sort of picking out what I hope. Sometimes the things seem to be very narrow, and I'd have to try and imagine something else, that if that child was interested in that one particular thing, perhaps I could just extend the interest a little farther with something a little different. And it was kind of fun to do that too, but there's a lot more than just sticking some toys in a box and saying, here, take them home. It's all age appropriate and interest appropriate too.
And there's one to follow that up is the very humbling part is I haven't in the last 2 years, but I used to deliver the boxes. Boy, that's a real heart-wrencher at times, because you go to some families, boy, I wish I had 3 or 4 boxes to give them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or the number of children that asked for a coat or mitts.
Oh.
You know, they're given a list, they're told to make a list of toys or games or whatever they want, art supplies, whatever, and they write down a coat and some socks or something, and I think, oh dear, well, that child has to have more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know what? That's what it's all about sometimes.
Exactly.
I remember one year, and this goes to the feeling of, I never do it. And I don't think any of us do. Any of the volunteers ever do it because, I need a dose of feel good about me today, so I'm going to go volunteer. That's never my thought. My thought is, those people need something. Let's see if we can get it for them. And I remember walking into a family's house that, well, first it started out by going to Nabisco, and I'll use the name because they were a client of mine at the time. I explained to them that there was this family who was really down on their luck. Both of them, through no fault of their own, were out of work, and then the car accident ensued, and the mom was really in a bad way, and they just weren't going to have that great of a Christmas. And I thought, you know, the thing that they're going to miss is all of the extra things they have. They're going to get the turkey and all that stuff. Somehow that'll come together. But it's the things, like the fancy things, like some cookies and some crackers, and the fancy things that are extra and above the normal basics. So I went into there. They had a little grocery store and all the reject stuff that still tastes great. They would sell, employees got to go there, and, you know, you get a big bag of cookies for $1 because they're too burnt or didn't turn out the way they thought they would. And I went into their little shop and I said, here's what I'm doing. Can you guys help me out? Oh, they were so thrilled. They walked around like elves in a toy store. They put this huge box together of this fancy cracker and that fancy cracker and these fancy cookies, and oh, these are a little burnt, but you'll never know, and they've got great icing inside, and we didn't use these ones. You can have all this and I walked out of there with this box, got in my car, drove over to this family, and when I walked in the door, it was like me being Santa. And I know that they loved everything, but I can't tell you what it did to me. Even thinking about it all these years later, I just feel so good about doing that. So it's rewarding not only for the people who are getting this, the benefits of the volunteers, but it's so rewarding to be a volunteer.
Yeah. And to know a company like Nabisco would also be willing to help. And we see that all around us. Big companies and little companies. Look at this country and even the world with the tragedy in Saskatchewan and all the people that are giving of their hearts, if nothing more, their prayers, whatever. We are a species that likes to give and be with others.
And I think for Fort McMurray, didn't you guys send squares? Knitted squares?
Yeah.
And someone in Fort McMurray
they had
was
asked
going to put
us.
them into a
Yes,
blanket.
they wanted to. We would have made them into blankets at Loops, but they asked us just for the squares because they wanted some project. They couldn't accomplish the whole thing, but they wanted a project to put them together to make blankets. So
isn't that something?
And we sent them over to Africa and all kinds of things.
The hands creating something, great energy, because nobody makes you knit a square. You do it because you want to. So all that love and energy in that square, and then that gets to be someone's blanket.
That's right.
So we are literally wrapping someone in a beautiful
big
blanket.
hug. Yeah.
Isn't that wonderful?
But the project we're working on right now, I don't know if you've ever heard of them, are fiddle squares or fiddle bands. And the first idea was a band that you would put a sleeve, for instance, that would go from your elbow to your wrist, knitted. And it has all kinds of shapes. They can be knitted or crocheted or buttons or whatever sewn onto this. And those with Alzheimer's like to sit and fiddle with a different texture. They fiddle all the time.
When you said fiddle, I'm trying to think of fiddleheads, the plants, or fiddles, the violin.
The violin, exactly.
I wasn't getting it.
And so then it was suggested when I was telling some of the ladies at Parkview, some of the employees, that we were doing this to send over to the home. They said, even a mat, a little thing squared, not to go on their wrist or on their arm, but just on their lap, because then they can sit and fiddle with these pieces of yarn and stuff sticking out, and it just calms them.
Idea.
And so all of our, so there's one lady that lives at Parkview that's newish to our group, and she just, she's been coming down with squares or rectangles each Tuesday now, saying, look what I've done, and she's having fun putting different things on. And
I used to make them for babies. I used to make activity blankets. So I would crochet the different squares, and each square, except the middle was where the baby was, and there were things that they could hit their feet against that would make a crinkly sound.
Yes, I remember those.
Bells. Everything was baby safe, and there was a chewing ring, but instead of it being flung across the room, it was attached to the blanket. And I made one for my sister and for other friends of mine who had babies, and they all said, wow, this is great. And then I'm thinking now that I could do that for Alzheimer's patients.
Alzheimer's. They just love them. I know that when we've had donations of yarn and needles, the yarn sometimes is too nubbly for some of the beginners to work with. But those workers over at the home said to us, if we could have that, we'd love it, because we'll just make it into something that our Alzheimer's victims can use, because the tactile is still very important to them. So I think the measurements are 22. Measure your wrist to your elbow, because that can also go across your lap. And I think it was 22 inches long was the suggested, but that's because they were doubling them. And I said, I have some nice fabric that has texture in it that I will line them. I will put the backing on.
Right.
So maybe don't have to be quite that long, but something that could go around your arm or on your lap. And
Isn't that something?
A fiddle blanket, a fiddle thing, a fiddle.
I never heard, but I kept thinking, we used to have a Catholic lady next to us when I lived in the city, and she always played with the beads.
Yes, yes.
And I thought she'd drive me crazy. She'd play with these beads and things, but it was part of her religion.
And it meant something to her.
And that's right, and it calmed her.
And it calmed her.
Yeah, so it's interesting.
Yeah, well, if you go over to Parkview, to the home, you will see that for the Alzheimer's patients, they have boards. And my dad used to love the board because it had an old dial telephone.
Yes.
And I used to laugh because, can you imagine if you had to dial 911 in an emergency? 9.
Well, the 1 and 1 are better. The 9 took a long time.
The 9 took a long time. And you couldn't do anything fast with an old dial phone. But you know how many of them gravitate right to that dial because it's something that they're very familiar with. Mm-hmm. It is. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Isn't that interesting? So here we are, inventing ideas, talking about volunteering, and it is kind of simple, isn't it?
It's very simple, and I did a course for York Region on volunteering a few years ago, and I said I think one of the most important messages I can give as the chair of or the organizer of something is to appreciate even a half an hour a year.
Yes.
Whatever you can give me to help me with the project is appreciated.
Yes.
It could be months, it could be a
important.
half an hour. It is whatever you can give.
A busy stay-at-home mom who's got kids and a house to take care of, if she can give you an hour a week, or an hour a month.
An hour a year even.
An hour a year.
Because sometimes with Markham Fair I can have somebody that will just come in and I can give you an hour here and maybe an hour next week, and that's about it. I'll appreciate that too.
Absolutely.
Because if they have enough fun, they'll come back 3 hours next time.
And someone has said to me before, I don't have any time to give you, but would a couple $100 work? Yeah, that's fine.
Sure.
Thank you.
Exactly.
I'll put my hand up.
But I'm sort of sorry for those people because we would understand giving money is one thing, and we all do that too.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But there's something giving of, as I said, the smile, the time, the touch.
And giving of yourself.
The self. Yeah.
Giving of yourself.
Yeah. They're.
So important.
Now, once a month, I run a light up in the balcony of the United Church for an afternoon show, and it's called Stovall United Music, and it's once a month, and I'm up in the top there, and I run the light for them, and it's only a couple of hours, but it's once a month for them, and they like and they appreciate it. So I've tried to get other people to do it, but nobody else wants to do it. But anyway, so
You do too good a job.
maybe so. But
That's
anyway, no, I just
intimidating.
enjoy it.
I
So
need to take some lessons from my son. If you ask him to do something that he really isn't interested in, it never gets done quite right.
Oh,
So then you never ask him again.
Haven't we all tried that? But I always say to my volunteers, I can't dock you any pay, but I can make you do double time until you get it right. If I think that's the trick they're playing.
Yeah.
yeah,
Although sometimes you do have, the one thing I like about volunteering is I can say, you know what, I'd love to help you with the accounting, but I am not a numbers person. I would love to help, but that's not my forte. You can't go into the office and say, you know what, I would really love to do that job, but I'm not going to. It's not my thing. You know, you're getting paid, so you do it because you have to. But in
Yes.
volunteering, you have a little bit more flexibility, don't you?
Oh, I hope so.
Yes. To choose the things that you like to do and don't like to do.
Yeah.
now
I
every
just
now
hope
and then
people
you
do.
get caught. When we set up Markham Fair, there's never enough people to unload all the equipment.
all the stuff.
And you go there to get your stuff, and you have to get on those trucks and
Yeah.
wheel that stuff down, and it's beyond
It's
me.
tough. Yeah, those young men that are strong.
Oh yeah,
That-
yeah,
that
it's necessary.
We appreciate their
But-
health, their
but
help.
Anyway, but I show up anyway, and
Yeah.
that's I do my bit.
Well, you also need the guy who conducts it, because if you don't have it going in the right way, it can be total chaos. You know, the person that won't wait until you've unloaded the front of the truck and they're at the back digging through stuff and making a mess, and then they can't get out because you blocked them in. You know, there's the logistics to everything.
That's right. That's right.
So you can now move into the head of logistics
Okay,
We'll get you a white hat.
all right.
and a yellow vest.
Over there with a big cross on it. Yes. Okay.
Watch out for this guy.
So many of us know Dr. Jack White, who's been a doctor in Markham since time began. And Jack still comes up to volunteer. And he can't do very much, but he's there. And you know what? Just to see him there is all we need.
Yep.
It spurs us on because
That's
Jack
important.
still wants to be there helping in some way. And maybe we're giving to him, and he's certainly giving to us.
Terrific.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Creating community from the ground up.
Yeah.
Right? And
Right.
helping those who need a helping hand.
Yep.
And not making a big deal of it.
Oh, and just anybody that's interested in volunteering, it's really enjoyable in the long run.
Now, I've heard that a lot of the service clubs are really hurting. Not just the Lions, but
They
the
all
Knights
are.
of Columbus
Yeah.
and all these different places because there doesn't seem to be an influx of new, younger people. And that's a really sad state of affairs, I think. We are very busy. Everybody's really, really busy. But if you noticed on the weekend, in spite of all of your busyness, when we have an ice storm and you can't get out, isn't it amazing how much time we actually do have? And the world did not come to an end. Really, nothing came to an end. So if we could take, not the whole weekend, but maybe one day out of the year where you say, this is the day I'm going to go and help at the soup kitchen, or this is the day that I'm going to help at the food bank, or this is the day that I'm going to sort toys for the Lions Club or sell Christmas trees for the Lions Club. That's simple enough to manage.
Yeah, and as I said, you might just give an hour now, but you'll find that you'll want to give more and more and more as time goes on. You'll find that time.
Yeah. Let's hope.
Yeah.
Let's hope. I have a good
Yeah.
feeling. I think people will start volunteering more.
I
And
can't imagine
congratulations.
life without service clubs.
No, me
And that's
either.
the way it's going.
That's
Yeah.
so true.
Yeah.
I don't know how it's going to work.
No.
Something
Well-
might come along. I don't know.
Those young people that I saw on the stage last week at the cadet competition, I sat back at the end of the day and I said to the two teachers that were judging beside me, if these are the young people who are going to be taking over for us, I feel so relieved. What fabulous young people they were, with determination, beautiful diction, wonderful thoughts. You know, these are speeches they made themselves. And it was so refreshing. It was truly a wonderful day, and I'm really, really feeling good about the young people coming forward these days.
Oh, they're wonderful.
They are.
Yeah, you
They
spend
really
some
are.
time with them, and you just see how excited. They're far more clever than we.
Oh, golly, yes.
At that age, I wasn't interested in anything. Maybe boys. That was about it. Or what I looked like.
Yeah.
But these kids have so much more knowledge, worldly knowledge.
The world is becoming a smaller
Political.
place. And it's nice that we can all help out.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for all that you do in the community, both of you. And if anyone needs to get a hold of Ivan or Diane, they can contact the station here at Whistle FM, and we'll give you directions on how to get a hold of everybody. And just check out your the groups in the community and find out where you might want to volunteer. Read about them, see which one sort of strikes your fancy, and go and give it a try. Don't commit to anything, just go and see what it's all about.
Yeah.
And it maybe just starts from there, right?
For sure.
Well, happy National Volunteer Week
The
to
same
both of
to
you.
You're also a volunteer, remember?
I am. I definitely am. Okay, that's it for Fresh Waves today. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening to Whistle FM. We have tons of great programming coming up later on in the day, so do check out all the great programs on Whistle FM. Next week on Fresh Waves, we've got all kinds of new and exciting guests, so don't forget to tune in on Wednesday mornings and again on Sunday morning at 10 to Fresh Waves. I'm your host, Brenda Masson, signing off for today. And Jason Rumball, our tech producer, will take it away.
One, two, three, four, 5, 6, 7, 8. I believe it's not too late. Together we can change the world. Lay the puzzle pieces out. Find out what it's all about.
listening to Fresh Waves, a Whistle FM production. I'm your host, Brenda Masson, and our technical producer is Jason Rumball. Tune in every Wednesday at 10 a.m. for Fresh Waves here on Whistle FM, 102.9 on the FM dial and whistlefm.com anywhere in the world. Fresh Waves is available on podcast too. Just go to whistlefm.ca or freshwaves.ca. We podcast all of the Fresh Waves shows so that you can listen at your leisure. Fresh Waves. It really is